Today, we'll be taking a look at 5 bounce-back candidates for the New York Jets in 2023. Today, we're getting into 5 bounce-back candidates for the Jets. Before we get into my list, you know the drill, Matt O'Leary NY on socials. Call in so you can get your voicemails on the Just Jets podcast. New eps every single Wednesday. So this list is not in any particular order of the 5, like, oh, this is going to be the biggest bounce back. This is going to be the smallest amount of bounce back. It's just 5 guys who I think can bounce back for the New York Jets, and I am excited to get into it. We will start the list with none other than Carl Lawson. Carl Lawson was signed for the New York Jets heading into the 2021 season and unfortunately suffered an Achilles injury and was out for the entirety of the season. Now, during training camp, he was their most dominant player. He was an absolute beast, and it was unfortunate to see him go down with an injury. So he missed the entire year, and when he came back, he was okay last year. He wasn't abysmal. He wasn't amazing. He was fine. He was a pretty good player. He put up 7 sacks, 26 pressures. But what we didn't know that we found out at the end of the year, thanks to Connor Hughes, was he actually re-hurt that Achilles and was supposed to miss time going into the 2022 season. Instead, he not only played every single game, he didn't miss a practice. So kudos to him for being able to play through it. But can this be a big year for Carl Lawson? Can he be a double-digit sack guy? I think he does come close. I think he is someone who can, flirt with double-digit sacks this year. And I know that they have a really deep rotation. You draft Will McDonald. You have Jermaine Johnson, who might have a bigger role this year. You have Bryce Huff, who they love to have screaming off the edge in pass rushing situations. But Carl Lawson is absolutely someone who I think could have a much better year this year now that he's fully healthy. Speaking of guys who can have a better year now that they are healthy, number 2 on this list is Aaron Rodgers, one of the newest New York Jets. Last year was a down year for Aaron Rodgers. He had 3,695 yards, 26 touchdowns, 12 interceptions, and a 91.1 passer rating. Here's the thing. He played most of the year with a broken thumb. Putting up those numbers just in general would have been one of the better quarterback seasons in New York Jets history, which, yes, you could say how sad that is. But if the Jets got that last year, they are probably winning 10, 11 games and playing in a playoff game instead of losing 6 games in a row and going 7-10. So Aaron Rodgers, even if he replicates what he does last year, the Jets should win. But I think he bounces back and puts up better numbers than that. And now, I don't know if, at least for me personally, there are people who think this, which is fine. I don't think it's going to be 2020, 2021 MVP level where he's throwing like 45 touchdowns and 3 interceptions, but I think it'll be solid numbers, over 4,000 yards, in the low 30s in touchdowns, 10 or less interceptions. I think you sign up for that, and that would be a really impressive quarterback season for the New York Jets. And again, they probably win a lot of games if they get that kind of production. Number 3 on my list is Michael Carter, the running back. I am by no means out on Michael Carter. There are a lot of people who are completely out on Michael Carter. They don't think he's any good. He looked solid as a rookie, broke a lot of tackles, 4.3 yards per carry as a rook. And he looked, as I said, eye test looked much more explosive. Last year, just 3.5 yards a carry. Not good. Although, to be fair, pretty much all the Jets running backs outside of Breece Hall last year really stunk. Zonovan Knight had a few good, had 3 good games in a row. But you could also say that the offensive line played a little bit of a role in it, which that's the route that I am going to go with this one. I think Michael Carter was, part of it was him. I think he was a little bit banged up. Yes, he was ineffective at times, but I think it also has to do with how poor the offensive line was for the New York Jets down the stretch. So I think he is someone who could, bounce back and be a solid contributor. I'm not saying, he's ever going to be a 1,000-yard rusher, put up 8 touchdowns. He's not on the same level of Breece Hall, obviously, but I think he could be a solid RB2, RB3 contributor, maybe get 8 carries a game, and average 4.5 yards a carry, something like that. I think you sign up for it. And I think he is better. I'm not giving up on him. I know a lot of fans are like, well, maybe you just flip him for a day 3 pick in training camp. I don't know if I'm necessarily looking to do that. I think he could bounce back. Number 4 on my list is Lakin Tomlinson. He was a terrible run blocker last year. That's his strength, right? One of the reasons why the Jets signed him was because he's a good run blocker and he knows the system, obviously playing in San Francisco for all those years. He allowed 32 pressures, also just really, really bad. He was coming off a Pro Bowl season and was a significantly below average guard last year. That can't happen. That seemed like an anomaly. Again, it was just really, really weird. But I think with more consistent and potentially better play at left tackle and center and quarterback play does also have an impact on the offensive line. We know that offensive line play has an impact on the quarterback, but it kind of goes both ways. And with a new and more veteran offensive coordinator, I think Lakin Tomlinson is absolutely someone who can bounce back. And again, maybe not like to the level where he's a Pro Bowl level guard or an above average guard, but I think he could be solid, where you're not like, oh my God, this is just a black hole eating up a ton of money on the left side of the offensive line. I think you could be a solid contributor, someone who you at least feel comfortable with out there starting, because last year, that really wasn't the case, unfortunately. Last on the list, coming in at number 5, is Makai Beckton. Now, he actually has to get on the field, which that's the big story from this past week, is him talking about really how he was upset about having to play right tackle and how he thinks that was a big factor in him re-injuring his knee. Whether or not, I'm not talking about in this video whose side you're on, whether, Beckton was right or the Jets were right or this or that, but if he gets on the field in any spot, either left tackle or right tackle, we saw as a rookie just how dominant he could be. And with the weight loss and, what kind of shape he's in, if he's on the field in any capacity, I think he could be a really dominant player for this Jets team, especially in the run game. The thought of, I hope he's up for it, but the thought of Makai Beckton and AVT on the right side of your offensive line in the run game would be awesome. Would be just straight up awesome. I would love to see that. As I said, he was missed pretty much the last 2 full years. He played half a game in 2021 and then missed the entirety of the 2022 season with a torn ACL. I want to see rejuvenated and motivated Makai Beckton out there. And if he does get onto the football field and if he does stay healthy, that would be a major bounce back candidate. So those are my 5. I want to hear from you. Who are your bounce back candidates for the New York Jets in 2023? Thank you so much for tuning in today. Please make sure to subscribe, leave a like, comment, share with a friend. I'm Matt O'Leary. I'll catch you next time.